We're diving into a night that left Bavaria shaken, food banks across Germany shutting their doors to the hungry, a chancellor pushing back hard against Washington's migration advice, and a French president unveiling plans that could put thousands of young people in uniform. But wait, because what I've saved for the end might just be the most revealing development of them all. I spent years inside one of those big-name media operations, the kind everyone recognizes, watching how narratives got shaped to fit agendas rather than facts. I walked away because I couldn't stomach the spin anymore. Now I work alone, answerable to no one but you, and I bring you the stories that matter without the corporate filter. Before we go further, if you find value in what we do here, hit that like button and subscribe. Better yet, consider sponsoring this channel. We put serious hours into fact-checking every claim, tracking down original sources, making sure you're not getting fed misinformation. That work takes time and resources, and your support makes it possible. And trust me, stick around until the very end, because the most intriguing piece is waiting there. So let's start in Bavaria, where a shocking incident unfolded in the darkness. A 90-year-old pensioner, alone in his private home, became the target of a brutal robbery. The assailant used force, leaving the elderly homeowner in critical condition. What makes this case particularly unusual is the description police have released. According to their spokesperson, they cannot confirm exactly what the perpetrator wore, except for one strange detail. He was dressed entirely in white. Yes, completely in white. The Serious Crimes Unit has assembled a specialized investigative team, and they're urgently calling for witnesses. Anyone who noticed anything suspicious in the area is being asked to come forward immediately. We all hope this individual gets caught, but here's where things get even more troubling. This violent act against a vulnerable elderly person reflects a broader crisis of safety that's becoming impossible to ignore across the region, and that crisis connects to something else happening right now across Germany, something that reveals just how deep the fractures run. Every fourth food bank in the country is now turning people away. Think about that for a moment. 1 in 4. The reason? Too few donations, not enough volunteers. The federal chairman of the organization that coordinates these food banks made a stark admission. Unfortunately, we cannot serve everyone who approaches us. Roughly 1.5 million people regularly depend on these food banks for basic nutrition, but now many locations are suspending distribution entirely, leaving those who need support most with nowhere to turn. Germany has 975 food banks in total, staffed by thousands of volunteers doing what they can, but donation volumes keep dropping. They emphasize it again and again, shrinking, shrinking, shrinking. The organization notes something else, something they can't avoid mentioning, rising poverty. It's undeniable. And in the middle of this crisis, the director of one food bank network made a pointed statement. He said politicians must fight poverty, that food banks are only a supplement. The responsibility for combating poverty, he declared, lies with politicians and the state, not with charitable food distribution. That's a direct rebuke, and it includes, as he underlined, the need for sensible social policy and pension reform. But will anyone in power actually listen? Now here's where the international dimension crashes in. After the US government instructed its diplomats to lobby European nations for stricter immigration policies, Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz responded, and his reaction was, to put it politely, one of clear displeasure. The plans from Donald Trump's administration, aimed at bringing order to unauthorized migration in Europe, did not sit well with the German leader. Merz openly criticized what he sees as interference by the US government in European migration policy. His exact words, "Migration policy is our business, and we decide whether we consider it correct. Germany, in particular, is on the right path after the change of government." He didn't stop there. "We do not need admonitions from outside," Merz stated bluntly. So the Chancellor is drawing a line, making it clear Berlin will set its own course. But here's the complication. Merz also mentioned they're developing a new pan-European policy on asylum and immigration, referring to a planned solidarity mechanism. Under this system, countries unwilling to accept migrants could instead contribute financially, with personnel or through material support. Sounds reasonable on the surface, right? Except not all EU member states support this mechanism. There's a genuine split within the European community on this solidarity arrangement. The statement comes from someone sitting in a safe, very comfortable position, well situated, who apparently believes she has the authority to decide when peace should arrive. Although, if you look at it from another angle, she's likely just voicing what she's been instructed to voice. Perhaps that's why pro-European US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is refusing to meet with her. What does that tell you about how Washington views her credibility? Now, there's a troubling warning coming out of France, though frankly it was expected. The announcement comes from the world-renowned Pasteur Institute. They're warning that a new mutation of avian influenza could prove more terrifying than the health crisis we already lived through. Their exact phrasing: experts fear that bird flu may adapt to mammals, particularly to humans, and become transmissible from person to person. Worth noting, the Pasteur Institute was among the first laboratories in Europe to develop testing for the previous outbreak. We'll be watching closely to see what further statements emerge, and they almost certainly will. But that's not the only significant development from France that's generating intense discussion. President Emmanuel Macron has unveiled the broad outlines of a new voluntary military service designed to increase the number of people who can be mobilized in case of conflict. Speaking before the 27th Mountain Infantry Brigade, Macron announced the introduction of this new national service, which will begin as early as next summer. The program targets young people aged 18 to 19 who will be selected on mobilization day based on their motivation and the armed forces' needs. The service will last 10 months. But here's where experts are raising eyebrows. Macron announced this forthcoming military service at a time when France is attempting to reduce its debt and experiencing a shortage of financial resources. Not exactly the best timing, as analysts point out. It's no secret that France faces an economic crisis, just as severe as its political one. So, where exactly will the funding come from for training and equipping thousands of new recruits? Macron also announced plans to expand the mobile phone ban to upper secondary classes starting next academic year. Such rules already apply in middle schools. Before implementation, they'll conduct a communication campaign to explain the decision, because apparently French teenagers need a government campaign to understand why they can't have phones in class. Almost simultaneously, but over in Romania, authorities have exposed a network manufacturing fake documents for people from Russia, Moldova, and Ukraine. According to investigators, the fraudulent scheme operated like this. Most suspects presented forged certificates of Romanian citizenship, allegedly issued by consular institutions, then used those to obtain identity documents that granted access to the Schengen zone and the entire European Union. So these fake IDs were essentially keys unlocking all of Europe. Shifting to the United States, President Donald Trump has announced a complete halt to accepting migrants from third world countries. He wrote on his social media platform, "I am permanently stopping migration from all third world countries." Which specific countries does he mean? How and when does Trump intend to implement this? He didn't specify, so we'll definitely learn more later. Trump also stated he wants to cancel millions of unlawful entry permits from the Joe Biden era and drastically reduce the number of people illegally present in the U.S. Bottom line, a lot of people will have to leave the United States. There's no way around it. And holding on, meaning staying in America, will very soon become extremely difficult, to put it mildly. Additionally, the American president intends to eliminate federal benefits and subsidies for non-U.S. citizens and deport migrants deemed incompatible with Western civilization. He considers reverse migration the only real solution. The U.S. has already launched a large-scale review of green cards held by foreigners from 19 problematic countries. This is tied to national security following a recent serious incident in Washington. As for news about the American president's peace plan, according to U.S. media reports today, it's now known that President Trump has stated his flexible negotiation style allows him to achieve agreements where others have failed. Senior White House officials are claiming they're closer to a peaceful settlement in Ukraine than ever before, closer than anyone to ending the conflict. That's what they're saying. Optimism is reportedly quite high, according to what White House representatives told American journalists specifically. So we're watching carefully. There's enormous intrigue ahead, and I believe I'll be among the first to bring you the most important developments. These are the informational moments for today, for right now, and they speak volumes. Write your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think about everything unfolding. Remember to like, subscribe, and if this work resonates with you, consider supporting the channel so we can keep bringing you these stories without compromise. I'll see you tomorrow with whatever breaking developments emerge. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and keep questioning.